puppets, fun and mime. Welcome to the story time. And Augustians, today I have a famous fairy tale for you, The Ugly Duckling. What do you think about the name, the title of the story? Ugly Duckling? What's ugly? Who's ugly? Let's see. Is it okay to call anybody ugly? Let's find out. It was a beautiful summer in the countryside. The corn was golden, the oats were green, and the haystacks were piled up in the meadows. The stork walked along on his long red legs, chattering away, which his mother had taught him in that language. Surrounding the cornfields and meadows were large forests, in the midst of which were deep lakes. It was indeed lovely. In this snug spot, a duck sat on her nest, waiting for her eggs to hatch. She was beginning to get tired of waiting, as her little ones were a long time coming out of their shells, and she didn't get many visitors. The other ducks much preferred to swim in the cool river than to climb the muddy slope and gossip with her. At last the eggshells cracked, one after the other. Peep, peep! Quack, quack, said the mother, and then they all quacked as well as they could and looked about them at the large green leaves. Their mother let them look as much as they liked, for green is good for the eyes. Are you all hatched? Asked the duck. No, I do declare the biggest egg is still here. I hope this doesn't last too long, as I'm quite tired of it. She settled herself back down on the nest to hatch that last leg, you see. An old duck came to visit. How are you getting on? She asked. One egg is still not hatched, but the others are the prettiest ducklings you'll ever see. The old duck looked at the large unhatched egg. I'm sure that is Turkey's egg. I was tricked into hatching some once. After all my trouble, they were afraid to go into the water. Take my advice. Leave it where it is and teach the other children to swim. I will sit on it for a little longer, said the duck. A few days longer will be nothing. As you wish, said the old duck, and she took her leave. At last the large egg hatched. A young bird crept out, crying, peep, peep. It was very large and ugly with grey feathers. The duck exclaimed, It is so large and not at all like the others. Maybe it really is a turkey. I'll find out when we go to the water. It will go in, even if I have to push it in. So children, turkeys hatch and give their eggs. They don't hatch, they lay their eggs in others' nests. The next day, the sun shone brightly on the green burdock leaves. So the mother duck took her children down to the water. They jumped and cried, quack, quack. One after the other, the ducklings tumbled in after her. The water closed over their heads, but they all popped up in an instant and were soon swimming about prettily with their legs paddling away underneath them. The ugly duckling was also in the water, swimming as well as many of them. Well, he's not a turkey. See how well he paddles and how he holds himself upright? He is not so ugly if you look at him properly. Come now, children, I'll take you into society and introduce you to the farmyard. Close to me so you are not stepped on, and above all, look out for the cat. When they reached the farmyard, the mother duck said, Let me see how well you can behave. Bow your heads to that old duck there. She's the highest born of them all. See how she has a red flag tied to her leg? It is a great honor. Come on, bend your neck and say quack. The ducklings did. But the other duck stared and said, What a queer-looking duckling one of them is. Leave him alone, cried his mother. He is not doing any harm. He's so big and ugly, and he should be turned away. Go! The others are very pretty. What a shame this one cannot be hatched again, said the old duck. He is not very pretty, your ladyship, but he has a very good sense and swims better than the others. "The other ducklings are graceful enough. Now make yourself at home," said the old duck. They all went home. But this bullying and teasing grew worse every day. The poor duckling was hunted by everyone, and even his brothers and sisters taunted him. At last, he ran away, frightening the little birds in the hedge as he flew over. "They're afraid because I'm so ugly," the ugly duckling thought. He closed his eyes and flew until he came to a large moor where some wild ducks lived. Here he stayed the night, very tired and sorrowful. In the morning, the wild duck stared at him. "What sort of duck are you? You're very ugly, but you seem nice, and you can stay as long as you don't want to marry any of us." Poor duckling. Teasing again. He had been there 2 days when 2 wild geese came to him. "You're so ugly that we like you. Will you travel with us?" Pop up, pop up. Suddenly the hunters came and they had surrounded the moor. Hunting dogs came in. The poor duckling was terrified. A large terrible dog came bounding past him. But it sniffed at the ugly duckling and bared its teeth and its wild eyes gleamed, and then it splashed away without touching him. "Am I so ugly that not even a dog would bite me?" sighed the duckling. All day he lay still while the guns boomed overhead. Suddenly it became quiet, and the duckling ran away from that moor as fast as he could until a storm blew up. As night fell, he came to a poor cottage. The storm was so wild that the duckling could struggle on no further, and he sat down beside it. He noticed that one of the hinges had given out and the door slanted in such a way that he could sneak inside. An old woman lived there. In the morning, everybody discovered him, and there was a sound. The hen, the cat, the old lady had made a sound. "What is all the noise about?" asked the old woman. Her eyesight was not very good, so when the old woman saw the duckling, she thought it must be a duck. "What luck! Now we shall have duck eggs, unless it's a drake. I'll wait and see." The tomcat and the hen thought themselves the masters of the house, and they were not happy. "Can you lay eggs?" the hen asked the duckling. "No." "Then hold your tongue." "Can you arch your back or purr or hiss?" asked the cat. "No." "Then stay quiet." The duckling stayed in the corner, feeling very low and sad. "What is this nonsense? You have nothing to do, so you are filling your head with fancies. Want to go swimming?" "Why, you must be crazy. Ask the cat if he would like to swim about on the water, and this duckling says it's so good." "You don't understand me. I think I must go out into the world again." "Indeed you must." And the hen said, "You leave the cottage," and so did Ugly Duckling, and went out. Winters approached, and one evening the sun was setting. A large flock of beautiful birds flew overhead. The duckling had never seen any creatures like them before. They were swans with dazzling white feathers and long graceful necks, who were flying to warmer countries. They cried a peculiar cry as they flew. The ugly duckling felt quite strange as he watched them. He whirled around in the water, and stretching out his neck towards them, he uttered a cry so strange that it frightened him. He was beside himself with excitement and knew that he would never forget those beautiful, proud birds. As winters closed in, the weather grew colder and colder. The ugly duckling had to swim about on the water to stop it from freezing. But every morning the space he had left to swim in grew smaller and smaller. Finally, the water began to freeze around him, and he had to paddle with his legs as hard as he could to stop the space from closing completely. He grew so exhausted that he lay still and helpless, frozen in the ice. The next morning, a farmer was passing by who found the duckling. He broke the ice around the duckling with his shoe and carried him home to his wife. The farmer's wife revived the poor creature, and then the farmer's children tried to play them. They did not understand that Duckling was scared, and in the terror he fluttered into the milk pan and splashed milk about the room. Oof! The woman yelled and chased him with a broom, while the children laughed and screamed and fell over each other. At last, he slipped out through the open door and lay down exhausted under a bush in the snow. The poor duckling endured many miseries, and then he finally left that place. The duckling now found that his wings were stronger, and he rose up into the air. He flew until he found himself in a large garden. The trees were in blossom, and a stream wound its way through the grounds. Then the duckling saw 3 beautiful white swans swimming lightly over the smooth water. He remembered those birds flying in the sky and the connection he felt. I will go to these birds, even if they kill me because I am so ugly and I dare to approach them. It would be better than being pecked by the ducks, beaten by the hens, or starving of hunger in the winter. The duckling landed on the water and swam towards the swans. When they saw him, they rushed to him with wings outstretched. "Kill me," said the poor duckling, and he bowed his head down and waited for them to strike him. But what did he see reflected in the clear stream? He saw his own image. No longer an ugly grey duckling, but a beautiful, graceful young swan. To be born in a duck's nest is of no consequence if one is born a swan. The duckling felt glad to have suffered all the sorrow and hardship, for he was better able to enjoy the pleasure and happiness he now felt. The other swans swam towards him. Some young children came into the garden and threw some bread into the water. "There is a new one! There is a new swan arrived! He is the most beautiful all! He is so young and pretty!" And the older swans bowed their heads to him. Then he felt shy and hid his head under his wing, for he did not know what to do. He was so happy, but he was not at all proud. He had been hated for his ugliness, and now he heard them saying he was the most beautiful. The sun shone warm and bright, and he lifted his head and cried out joyfully from the bottom of his heart, "I never dreamt of such happiness as this when I was an ugly duckling. I never dreamt of such happiness as this when I was an ugly duckling." That's the story of the ugly duckling, Augustians. Remember, all of you have a place. All of you have the world waiting for your beauty. So never believe when somebody tells you that you are not enough. Ta-da, Augustians!